Hello again. I would like to shed light on something that involves caregivers. This is something that often goes unrecognized and certainly not spoken about enough. We all know that caregivers of any kind, whether they are hospice workers or the family members that are the caregivers, the direct caregivers, experience grief. This can take the forms of anticipatory grief, which comes before the person is dead, and certainly grief that comes after the person has passed away. What often gets missed a lot of times is the trauma that these caregivers experience that is a result of the traumatic nature of what the loved one is going through and what they are actually witnessing and experiencing on a daily basis. So yes, somebody could be grieving their loved one in anticipation of their death or after their death, but we often miss the fact that while they're caregiving, while they're being a caregiver for that person, they're experiencing significant emotional, psychological, and probably spiritual trauma as a result of being a caregiver and witnessing things that an average person may never have experienced if they had never cared for somebody that is at the end of life. This is often the result of witnessing something with our own eyes that is traumatic, that we're just not used to ever experiencing, such as physical and bodily processes that take place that are difficult to look at, to experience with all our senses. But I want to take it a layer deeper than that and add in those deaths that are very traumatic, such as somebody who has a high likelihood of bleeding out, let's say, hemorrhaging, and they are at home and they have been educated maybe by hospice that this is likely to happen. Or maybe in even maybe worse case scenarios where something like very traumatic happens in front of the caregiver that was not anticipated. The setup of PTSD is not that difficult. So somebody could experience even a few days of something traumatic that they have witnessed or been with, and then that can impact them. They can have nightmares, for example, or they can have dreams about being sick themselves, and this can go on for weeks and months. And somebody who has experienced intense, ongoing caregiver stress and witnessed things that were traumatic to them will have an impact on their life moving forward, even after the person dies, and even after maybe their grief has loosened up a little bit. So if you are a caregiver, or if you are someone that knows or is in the family of someone who is a caregiver, just be aware of that and make sure that you have outlets for your own self and that you take good care of yourself. Or if you are a family member or a friend of a caregiver, make sure that they have the help they need and the support they need. And this is very, very important so that they don't allow this PTSD potentially to set up and become a problem that is often, like I said, unrecognized. I'll give you an example of how easy it is for PTSD to set up. I myself had become a volunteer back in 2017 for the refugee crisis in Greece. I went and spent 1 week on the island of Kos inside Moria camp. This is where refugees had been maintained for the most part on that island, one of the biggest camps. And there were international medical teams from all over the world there to assist the refugees in addressing their medical care. So I was just there, like I said, for 5 full days, and I was part of a certain team. And we saw patients every day, a lot of patients who would come in and express what they had gone through to us in words, but also when they were retelling the story, recounting the story, they would cry. Some of them would have legit panic attacks right in front of us, and they were experiencing their trauma all over again. And through that process of us witnessing them in that state and listening to what they went through, a lot of us, I'm sure, myself included, developed mini PTSD. And I say mini because the symptoms that I had lasted for, I would say, 6 months. So when I got back, I did write about it. That is one of my ways of handling and processing difficult emotions or even happy emotions. But I also found that I started to have nightmares and reviewing what those patients had been through. And I would find myself in my awake state bursting out into tears when I would think about those patients. I had insomnia and nightmares, and this lasted for 6 months. And I'm bringing this story up just to make you aware that PTSD is not something that people experience only from direct trauma. They can experience it from indirect trauma. So caregivers, again, are dealing with this every day. It is a very impactful role that they play, and PTSD is real. It's gonna happen. So I'm just here to raise awareness of it and to make sure that if you do have a caregiver in your life, or if you are one, just keep an eye on that. Be kind to yourself and make sure you have outlets and have support, have people to talk to, and even therapists if you need. It's important enough.